sér. Rúndur Þorbjörnsson. Valberg skorar. Valberg Guðmundsson hefur skorað. Ragnar Margeirsson og skoðamark. Glæsilega.
Óskar Rafn á móti Bjarna. Og Bjarni með góða sendingu fyrir og Haraldur Ingvarsson.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Best of Pod Ever, and this is kind of our season wrap-up episode. The season is concluded at this point. It concluded a little while ago where we've both been pretty busy, so this is the first opportunity that we've really had to get together to talk about how the season ended. And I have to say, Trygve, I don't know how you felt, but for me, it kind of went out with a little bit of a whimper. Like, I was expecting maybe some more drama. Didn't necessarily happen that way, but that's okay. We have a season that has come to a close now, and it was a good season. It was a real fun season. Yeah. How are things on your end?
Good. It's going to be different not to have the Icelandic football for a while. We still have the internationals to keep us busy, but it's going to be a long winter now. But I know we have some things lined up, so we won't be bored.
That we do. And they'll be coming out here as we try to successfully navigate the the gap in time between seasons. There's lots of time ahead of us to get all this stuff out to you guys, to our listeners, and we thank you for listening to our show. It's been amazing, the response that we've had from everybody, and we really appreciate that. So that being said, for this episode, we're kind of gonna gloss over the final weekend a little bit. There's not too many talking points, but we'll pick out a few. Then we'll move into maybe some news and some notes that are happening now that the season is concluded, and then we're gonna wrap up the episode with talking about our team of the season. Here we go. Match week 27, final round in this year's Besta. Here's kind of how it ended. So FL hosted Kaur. That was the matchup between our two teams, and FL came out on the on the right side, I guess, of this matchup, if you want to say that. 3-1. There was a double from Kjartan Henry in this game, so FL going out with a positive result, I guess you could say. A little bit of a bummer for Benini. He didn't hit the record, but that's okay. He's close. So, and then, did you have anything you wanted to add there?
No. The last home game, I think, was the last game of the season for most Coward fans. I think this was just there was nothing really in this game for either team. I think Kjartan there was something in this game for Kjartan, obviously, but I think for everyone else, this was kind of a moot point.
Vikingur hosted Valor, kind of to, champions at home, final match of the round, getting to see lift the trophy in front of all their fans. It actually started a bit dodgy for Vikingur. If memory serves, Valor actually took the lead in this game, but then Vikingur stormed back, especially in the second half, and it ends 5-1 to Vikingur, and really, really putting Valor to the sword there to wrap things up. And I think at that point, Valor was just kind of like, whatever, like, you're champions, we're in second place, like, what are we even playing for? Type things. So
I think they sort of felt that way a few months ago. So I think that's
it's fun for Vikingur fans and the team to be able to celebrate like that in front of their home crowd and lift the trophy and not really have Valor spoil the party. So I guess that's a good thing. Breidablik hosted Stjarnan, and Stjarnan again just results. So this was kind of a battle for third and fourth place in the league, and Stjarnan comes out on top. So they secure third place over Breidablik. Breidablik drops down into fourth, which isn't necessarily huge, but considering these teams and who they are, and just the level that Breidablik kind of, I don't know, sputtered to at the end of this season has just been really, really incredible. And on the flip side, for Stjarnan, it's been really incredible to see them just keep going. I mean, I think it's hard to argue that they're probably the most informed team in the league to close out the season, and they've just done really well. We've talked a lot about them in recent episodes, so I don't want to necessarily beat the same drum, but again, they go to Breidablik and get a 2-0 win, and Breidablik honestly didn't even look threatening in that game.
No, they're done. You can tell, like, physically and mentally, they just feel like they're completely at their rope's end, and hopefully they can get a bit of rest now and gather themselves for the last 4 European games that they have, because they don't look like they have much left in the tank. But yes, all credit to Stjarnan. It's they outplayed them, and they also knew how to shut them down in the second half to avoid this Breidablik comeback that has been the case a few times this year. A night and day between these two sides at the moment.
And once again, the Egert Aaron show. So
yeah, that second goal was good.
That was amazing. Good. That's the top half. The bottom half. So this was really where everything was left to play for. There were essentially 4 teams in play for a final relegation spot. There were some crazy scenarios that had to happen, so you can say there were 4 teams at play, but it was probably difficult for some of these teams to actually go down. There were some specific scenarios that had to happen, but Fylkir didn't want to mess around. So they hosted Fram at home, and they ran out 5-1 winners. Absolute smashing of Fram. Not really sure what happened to Fram in this game. I guess, I don't know if they felt like they were safe and didn't need to worry, or if Fylkir just completely outplayed them. I mean, I watched this game, and I didn't necessarily think that Fram played poorly. I think just Fylkir maybe grasped their chances a little bit more, were maybe a little more clinical. Maybe that's the better way to phrase it.
Yeah. I don't know which team, if it was a case of one team showing up and the other one didn't, but yeah, it's Fylkir knew exactly what to do and they did it. And yeah, I mean, Fram if IBF had actually gotten their act together, they could have even relegated Fram there with this huge scoreline.
Yes, they could have, but they didn't, because IBF could not find a way to get past Keflavik. It ends 1-1. A draw does not help IBF at all. In fact, Keflavik went up in this game, and it took a monumental effort for IBF to even equalize. And that just, I think, speaks, again, more volumes to what you and I have been saying for much of the season, and especially since the split. It's like they just can't score goals. That was a huge issue for IBF this season.
So they're saying now that most of the foreign players will be leaving, which I think is no big surprise. Relegation to the first division, and I think they need to take a hard look at themselves now, because they could easily end up in this Grindavik scenario where, I mean, they're not crashing down the divisions, but they're not really coming back up as quickly as they wanted to, because the first division isn't that easy, and now with the playoffs for the second spot, it's even harder to get out of. You can't just end second. You really have to fight towards the end. And Orre, I think you mentioned it on the bonus pod we did a few weeks back, IBF have been struggling on the coaching and youth department for a while, so I think this could be, there's a scenario where we don't see them back for a while, but we'll see. And then unfortunately, just a quick stat, this was, I think, Hermann Hreiðarsson's ninth relegation in his career as a player and manager. It's which is something. I think some of those were doomed from a while ago, but it's still something.
Yeah, so that's not a good look for him to get relegated 9 times. That's not good. So not a great look for him, and we'll see. I mean, has IBF come out and said that he's still going to be the manager? Do you know?
No, they haven't said anything yet. So we'll see if he's the one. But I think there's a lot of managerial merry-go-round that's going to happen very soon. As soon as I think, to be honest, as soon as Oscar Rapp, at the time of recording, he's not the manager of Haugesund yet. once that decision is final, that we might start seeing some moves around the league.
Something else that I saw as well is with EBVUF going down, and then I think in the second division, I believe Selfoss maybe also went down. Anyways, I thought I read something that said that like teams in, and you'll have to correct me because I'm still trying to learn some of this, but teams in like the Southlands, I think maybe is how it translated. There's not any in the top two, or there's not any in the top division anymore. And in each of the divisions, the top two divisions, the team from the Southlands got relegated. So like basically they were saying like football in that part of the country is not in a good place at the moment.
Yeah, you're right. Selfoss was relegated from the first division. So yeah, no, going through that first division league table, it doesn't seem like there's any left from that area. I mean, in general, like we've spoken about before, the outside of Reykjavik in general is quite a tough area for teams to thrive, and right now, so for that part of the country, Suðurland is not doing super well.
I think that's a good nod to what Vestry's doing, though. So the fact that they could, get into the best stuff for this next year when it's so difficult like that, I think that's pretty cool. All right, and then the other two teams that were in play as well as Kawa. They hosted Haukau. Honestly, this was a very boring game. It was very drab. Like Haukau offered nothing. Kawa was basically like, we're done. So it ends 1-0. Kawa gets the goal that gets the win. For Haukau, ultimately it doesn't matter. But just a really dismal end to the season for Haukau. I think they've got some serious work to do to even get back to the levels that they were at the start of this season. Like they were kind of like a balloon that had like a slow leak, and they just slowly, all the air just left them. They started so well with that win over Breidablik in the first round of this season, and then I mean they beat Breidablik twice, home and away. But even so, just some of the other results are just like mind-boggling. I think the less said about that game, the better. So we'll probably just leave that there.
I think so.
All right, cool. So that's it. That's how it ends. So EBVUF and Keflavik are the two relegated teams out of the league. They will be replaced by Vestry and IA. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yep. And if I'm not mistaken, IA was in the league last year.
Yeah, they were. So they were in the league last season. And so they come up pretty quickly. Well, I was looking at the positions in the league last season. It was kind of interesting. Like at the end of the regular season, before the split, IA were dead last, 5 points up to Leiknir in 10th place, who were like 5 points from safety, 4 points from FO, who were second to last at the end of the regular season. And then they almost pulled it off. Like Leiknir had a terrible relegation playoff. They've got 1 point from 5 games, and I think only lost one game, and they almost caught up to FO. They just had such a terrible goal difference that they couldn't. They lost. They got relegated on goal difference versus FO. So that was an interesting blast from the past that I completely forgot about.
Yeah, no, and it'll be good to have them back, and it'll be fun to have Vestry in the league too. So it's all good. Lots to look forward to there, I think. In fact, with Vestry, I'm pretty sure something else that's been in the news. We'll talk about that here probably in just a second, because when we come back, we're gonna talk about some news and notes from around the league. So stay tuned, just a sec. Okay, welcome back to part 2, and in this section we're going to talk about just some news and notes from around the league that has happened since the last round, and there's actually quite a bit, but I want to start with the thing that I was hinting at right at the end of the last section with Vestry. So there was a lot of talk about their field and the status of their pitch, and they're probably going to have to get a new one, and I guess positively for them, it looks like the municipality or the the town or whatever has decided that they're going to go ahead and help the club get new turf in ahead of the season starting. So that's really good. That's positive news for them, and I think again it speaks a lot to the investment and the excitement level I think that surrounds Vestry, and the fact that they're in the top division now. I think that's really cool to see. I'm very excited to see how they can do and what they do for this next year. I think it's going to be good to have a newer face in the league that maybe is representing a different kind of part of the country, and they have some really interesting players in their team already. Whether or not those players stick around, you never know. But I'm really looking forward to that. So I thought that was a really positive development.
No, for sure, and we see that sometimes with these smaller teams, if you want to call them that get promoted a bit quicker than planned. They have to rush some stadium developments. So it's I think that happened with Grótta a few years ago, back when Óskar Rapp was actually promoted with them. I think they had to build a new stand, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this happens a few times, but it's nice that they managed to figure it out. But yeah, it'll be fun to see.
Let's spend a little bit of time talking about Breiðablik. So there's seems to be a lot going on there. We'll start off with their most recent Conference League match. They played Zorya Luhansk from Ukraine. They ended up, this was their first home game. It was pretty scrappy, pretty tight affair, honestly. I caught, roughly 70-ish minutes of this game. Breiðablik couldn't pull it out. They ended up losing 1-0. But, I don't know if you caught any of this game, Tryggvi, but you have any thoughts on it?
No, unfortunately, the Danes don't refuse to show this this game on any sort of streaming, so I'm having to rely on highlights and news articles and you, obviously. So, but yeah, I think it would have been nice to get a win on the first home game, but yeah, not quite. Yeah,
Breiðablik had a better second half than they did a first half. First half was not great. Second half was a lot better, and honestly, it probably should have ended 1-1, but it didn't. So yeah, second loss for Breiðablik there in two games in which I personally think they probably have a valid argument that they could have come away with a point in each of those games. They're really, I'm not ashamed at all of the fight that they're putting up. I think they're representing Iceland pretty well. And then again, I think the fact that their losses on the sheet, I guess, but watching the game, they probably deserve more than they're getting out of these games. And that, to me, is it's an experience thing. I think, honestly, is what I think it's coming down to. A lot of this, if they had some players that maybe had some more European experience, then maybe they'd be able to secure some of these points. But they don't. This is a really rare foray into European football, group stage football for an Icelandic team, and so I think that's coming to the forefront now, and you're starting to see what European experience can do. So hopefully they can take this and learn from it, and like you said earlier in the show, they still have 4 games left to play. So there's still some opportunity there. But yeah, anyways, that's kind of my thoughts on it. But sticking with Breiðablik, Oscar, the manager, this was really wild. I don't know if I can do this justice. I might let you take this over, because this is completely crazy. You sent this to me and when it came out, and I think I just responded back with like the shock emoji, like, what?
Yeah, this has been a bit, I think everyone there's been talk about both Oscar and Arnar a bit less, I guess, about them maybe trying to get some, moves abroad. The stock for both managers is pretty high, and Oscar maybe a bit more so because he got into Europe, so he's a bit more visibility. So I don't think it was a surprise that he was looking to move abroad. But then, yeah, the news came out right after the game against Stjarnan, that he had been let go, and I know some people were arguing about whether he's let go, whether he resigned, but he was technically let go because so what happened was a few weeks ago or days ago he went to the Breiðablik board and said, I would like to step down at the end of November, I guess, when the Europa League conference games are over. He said, I'd like to pursue some challenges, and when the season's over, I'd like to pursue that. And they responded with, well, if you want to leave, you can leave right now. So he was told that that was it. That he was, after the last league game of the season, that would be it. And I think the players have been told as well. So maybe that had something to do with that last game. I don't know. And then there was like a last end of the season party at the club where they usually player of the season and things like that are announced, and apparently there was huge in true Breiðablik fashion this season. There was huge drama. Oscar and his wife walked out and they were shouting, and it was an interesting, from what we've hinted at this a little bit and talked about it a bit this season, there seems to be something going on in the background of Breiðablik. The sporting director Ole Kristjáns, he resigned like we talked about a few weeks ago. So he's set to leave at the end of the season. There's been talk that him and Oscar haven't spoken since the summer or since the spring even. And so there's something going. I mean, people have been saying this, including us. There's something been going on in the background of this club for a while, and so maybe it's not that surprising. And actually, since we started recording, I just noticed that Oscar has now been officially appointed as the manager of Haugesund in Norway. He will start on the 1st of November, I think it says. So that's been official. So we're getting a nice landing manager aboard. So now we have to hope they don't get relegated.
Well, that's what I was about to lead into. Is like, yeah, he's picking up the team and they are not in a good spot at the moment. So he's got his work cut out for him, that's for sure. Breaking news on our show. That's exciting.
But it says that he won't start until end next season, so which is a bit odd. He won't actually be the manager until after the season's ended, so he won't try to save them.
So he won't really be involved with that. He's just there. He's getting used to the club, I would imagine, and how it works. Yeah, so his work contract must start on November 1st. But then he won't actually start coaching the team until next season. Okay, interesting.
So he'll be sitting in the back room or up in the stands, hoping that they can stay up.
Well, hopefully he doesn't walk out of Haugesund's Christmas party.
But I think this, like we hinted at a bit earlier in the show, this might then now start some merry-go-round, because there was an interview with Sigurður Ragnar Egilsson, who was the manager of Keflavík this season. So he's apparently interviewed for the Kawa job twice, and not as sporting director, but as manager, because it was originally thought that it was sort of a sporting director role that he was being interviewed for, but he wants to be a manager. And he mentioned in that interview that this might all start to take shape once Oscar takes the reins in Norway, because I would imagine that there were some people in Kauer secretly hoping for those talks to fall through so that he would come to Vesturbær. However unlikely that would have been. But maybe we'll start seeing some managerial appointments fall in place now that Oscar is off the table.
Well, how the dominoes will fall will be very interesting to see how it plays out. But in terms of Breiðablik, they have brought in, I guess it was Oscar's assistant, right? Halldór Arnason has been brought in as the replacement there. And yeah, you have some interesting stats about him and how that's going. Yeah,
so he's a very interesting coach. He's only 39, I think. Before this whole thing was announced, and before he was announced as the new head coach of Breiðablik, there was a lot of talk that he would move to maybe the Kauer or some other club, and some one of the other top clubs, because he's quite highly rated as a coach. He was a manager of KVF, which is a smaller team close to Kauer. But that was like 10 years ago or something, so he's been the assistant manager to Oscar, and So I think he said he was ready to take the next step to full-time manager. So if it wouldn't have been Breiðablik, then maybe he would have moved to Kauer or some other job like that. But yeah, very highly rated, and it was just announced very recently that Eyjólfur Héðinsson will be his assistant. So he's a name some people might recognize. He was an international. He was a professional player and playing in Denmark. So he's quite young as well. So they'll have quite a young coaching duo at the helm next season. So let's see what they can do. He got a bit internet famous in Iceland because if you remember that first scuffle or kerfuffle or whatever you want to call it between Víkingur and Breiðablik, he was the coaching staff of Breiðablik that took a very dramatic fall. So he's been memed a few times in Iceland. I'm sure that'll.
I don't know if that's a good. Yeah. I think you and I are both going to the same place. Like, I'm not sure that's a good starting point. Like, this club is already attached with drama, and so now we've got Mr. Falling Drama Man himself. Like, oh, that is gonna be interesting. And if you're listening to this show, I don't mean any offense. I'm just, that's crazy. That is crazy.
This Víkingur Breiðablik rivalry won't cool down at least next season. I think we can safely say that.
Oh, I'm already excited for it. Let's go. All right, good. Well, that's we'll leave Breiðablik there. Let's talk about some player movement now. Looks like for Keflavik that Sindri Thor isn't gonna renew. Is that right?
Yeah. So it was announced again very recently that they've been talking that he won't renew, and then it was officially announced that he'd rescinded his contract or whatever you want to call that. So he won't be staying with Keflavik. I think that's going to be a few players now in IBVF and Keflavik that will do that. So it'll be interesting to see if he stays in the not Pepsi, slip of the tongue there. Same with, I think if we talked about Sami Kamal as well, I think we'd love to see him stay in the Besta.
Two good pickups available for some of these teams, I think. So yeah, we have to see where they go. Patrick Pedersen. So some news with him. He signs a new 2-year deal to stay at Valor. So that's good for them. He has had a really good last half of the season coming back after his injury. We've kind of already talked about that before, so I don't know if we want to dwell on it too much. But no, I mean, I think that's positive for Valor, who are going to want to prove, I think, that they can stay with the big boys in Víkingur and Breiðablik and make some noise in Europe. We've spoken to it before as well, that they have one of the highest payrolls in the league, if not the highest, and so yeah, they really should be doing something in Europe.
Yeah, and I don't think that this will be a boring summer for Valur. I think they've been linked with a lot of players all over the pitch, and but as well, it'll be good for them to have the stability of Patrick in attack, and then we'll see how they build around him, what sort of players they bring in, or if they try to just stay. I think they also just need a bit of stability. They had a new manager and a bunch of new players, and I think it would also be nice with a little bit of stability.
One other note that we've come across, which is interesting. So I think we mentioned him maybe on the last show. We're going to mention him again here, but Victor Bjarki, he's that 15-year-old player at Fram, who I think he's got a lot of people who are talking about him. And when I say a lot, it's a lot for people talking about a 15-year-old, I guess. But anyways, he's been linked to FC Copenhagen, so your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I think FC Copenhagen are looking very much at Iceland these days. I know they've trialed a few players from Stjarnan and other places, and obviously they have the manager still at the time of recording. Ragnar Sigurðsson is still the manager from. That's also something that's up in the air. So they have that link to FC Copenhagen there. So I don't know if he's putting in a good word for Victor. But yeah, it's a very talented player who's obviously we'd like to see him at least one more season in the Pepsi, if you will. See him one more year here. I like it, but let's see. But it would also be very exciting to have him move to FC Copenhagen.
Good. One move that has been confirmed, and this was actually confirmed really quickly. I was a little surprised. I'm pretty sure it was like the day after the final round, day or two. It couldn't have been more than that. Was Orvar Egersson, who is leaving Haukau and signed by Stjarnan, and so Stjarnan officially announced it. Yeah, what thoughts on that? I mean, I personally, I guess I'll give my 2 cents first. I think that's a good pickup for Stjarnan. I think Egersson had a pretty good season, all things considered. It kind of tailed off at the end there, like the rest of the Haukau team. But he himself, I think, has been one of their best players all season long. So I think for Stjarnan, I think that's a decent move.
For sure, it's a huge move. So if they can activate him for the whole season, not just for half a season, a bit like the rest of the Haukau players, then that's going to be big. There's talk that Joey Gibbs at Seattle might be moving on. He's not had the best season since moving from Keflavik, so have another option in attack to a pretty stacked attack. Even if Eckert leaves, they still had Emil Atlason, top goal scorer of the league, and Hilmar Árni and others. So and then now Orvar. This is going to be definitely a dangerous attack going into next season.
I think one other note that we failed to mention earlier, and this is my bad. I missed it here in the show notes, but for Kauer, I guess Bjarni Gudjons has been linked to Elfsborg.
Yeah, so that's one story going around. We'll see. There seems to be a lot of uncertainty around Kauer. Thankfully, they signed up Theodor Elmar on a 2-year deal, so I think that's going to be quite good for them to have a bit of stability around. And we've seen Bjarni Guðjóns. He's somewhere in the sporting director role ish at Kauer, and he's been linked to something similar at Elfsborg. He was coach of U19s in Norrköping for a little bit. So we'll see if he stays in the coaching side of things or more in the director of football kind of side of things. But yeah, Kauer needs a bit of stability soon, and we'll see who ends up still there at the end of it.
All right, well, that concludes this section. No other news and notes, at least at the moment. All right, good. We're going to leave part 2 there, and when we come back for part 3, we're going to talk about our 3 stars of the round, and then also we're going to discuss our team of the season. So we'll be right back. All right, for part 3, we are going to start with our 3 stars of the round. So I'll kick this one off. So we went with Peter Bjarnason from Fylkir. He was very instrumental in that absolute drubbing of Fram. Sorry, Fram. But good performance from him, getting on the score sheet again. So yeah, he is one of our 3 stars of the round.
For sure, well deserved. And then no prizes for guessing this one. But yeah, Kjartaron, we have this might be the last star he gets for now. 2 goals. I know he had spoken about trying to feed Emil Atlason in that last game, but I think he forgot that twice, so he just put the ball in the net. Especially for the second goal, I think he could have passed it to the side and not chipped the goalkeeper. But I think after running from the middle of the pitch, he kind of deserved that. So
yeah, he's well, there's nothing more to say really. I watched the end of the year award show, like I think it was from the league, or maybe it was from Stad to Sport, maybe. Anyways, they were handing out awards, and so I saw Igor. He came into the studio, and so I was watching that a little bit. Didn't understand a word that he was saying, but I was watching his demeanor. And yeah, he's fun. He seems fun. So that was kind of cool. But good. All right, our third and final star, and this is the third and final star of the entire season, is going to Erlinger, who is he got a hat trick for Vikingur against Valor, and so Yeah, I mean, he's not really a player that we've talked a ton about. And so good performance from him. He should definitely be proud of that. Probably came away with a match ball from that one. Well deserved.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's hard to talk about every Vikingur player. It's we could have spoken about all of them this season, I think. But yeah, no, it's very well deserved from him.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into our team of the season. So we'll just go ahead and hop right into that, because I guess the one caveat that you and I would both say with this is, like, honestly, you could have almost put the entire Vikingur 11 in this team of the season, right? But we didn't want to do that because there's a lot of talent in our league, and we wanted to try to showcase as much of that as we could. And even with the team that we picked on our scratch sheet, there's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 7 different players that didn't make the team that were in the conversation, and then there's probably even more besides that that we could honestly make an argument for. So we're kind of going to go through all these different players and maybe give a brief description or argument as to why we included them. Then we'll kind of review it at the end and call it good. So, yeah, Trygve, how about you lead us off on this one? You want to start with the goalkeeper?
This took a while to pick, because there are some goalkeepers you can choose, and I think the obvious one, and the one that some people have gone with, and it makes sense, is Ingvar from Vikingur. He's had a really good season with a really good team, and he's a very obvious choice. But again, I think we're trying to highlight some players, maybe we had a bit of the X factor, give their teams a bit, lifted their teams above what they could. And the two sort of finalists for us were Árni Snær from Stjarnan, who I think gave them a lot of solidity. But we went for Gismet in a pretty poor EVF team. But to be very honest, I think he's a huge reason why they didn't go down at the same time as Keflavik. He fantastic. I think he had a really good season. He had a shot save percentage and top 5 in the league. And yeah, I think he's definitely one of the players that's going to move on. And he's been linked to Cowred, and I think he definitely deserves to go back up to he was at Valur for a little bit after performing really well with Leiknir. I think he deserves another shot at the big teams. So hopefully he gets that move in the winter.
Maybe he'll land at FH. Who knows? Or is that not a big enough team? No comment. Yeah, don't say anything. Yeah, I think Guy is a well-deserved nomination for this spot. I think, as you already mentioned, he was really one of the reasons why EBVF held on for so long. Yeah, I think it's well deserved, and he made our team of the week on multiple occasions as well because of some of his performances. So yeah, it'd be good to see him land at a bigger club. So it'll be exciting. All right, let's move on to defense. So we kind of settled on like a 3-5-2 for this. It's just kind of how it panned out. There's a lot of different really good and exciting midfielders, and so we wanted to just pick a formation that expanded into that and allowed us to pick maybe as many as we could. So for defense, I'll just go through all three, and then you can chip in. So we went with Gunnar Vatnhammer, the Faroese player from Vikingur. I mean, what more can you say as a defender that you're not really talked about? I mean, I think that's it sounds weird and sounds a little backwards, but honestly, like, if you're doing your job and shutting things down, like, you're not going to be on the tongue of a lot of different people, right? Us included. And so we haven't talked a ton about him because he's just been so solid back there for Vikingur. So he was one of our nominations. The other one, one of the other ones is Lilner Freyr from Valor. Again, a very strong season from him. I think it's hard to argue that he's probably one of the better defenders in the league. So yeah, he gets a shout from us. And then we went ahead and we stuck Hoskildur back in defense. One of the reasons why we ended up doing that, I think, is because of the way that he just kind of has the ability to close things down, not necessarily in the back line of the defense, but sitting in front of them. Like, he can kind of close things down. Those are our three. Trygve, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, again, we probably could have gone with the entire Vikingur defense. I think Oliver Ekroyd would feel a bit disappointed not to be here, especially. But I think we chose to go with one of them, and I think Gunnar has done really well to come into this league. There was a bit of a question mark on how well he would fit here, and I think those questions have been well and truly answered. So he's definitely one of the best been one of the best defenders in the league this season. So I think he's very well deserved. And Hlynur, I think we mentioned him once or twice as well this season. The Valor team haven't had the best season in total, but I think defensively, I don't think you can argue that they've been very solid and for the most part. And he's a huge reason for that, and he's just a kid. So he slots in both as a part of back three and also more in midfield. It's he can do both. He has the maturity of doing both. So he's also one of those players we'd love to see again next summer. But there's also a decent chance this might be the last we see of him for a while.
I was just gonna say that would not be surprising at all.
And then Özgür, yeah, this is a bit, maybe you shouldn't. It's also the fact that we really wanted a Breiðablik player in here, and I think he was one of those players that really stood out all season as always going for it. He's both defensively and attackingly. He was always there. I think he was one of the standouts for a team that really struggled, I think, in the league at least. On a Breiðablik sliding scale, obviously. I mean, they still only did fourth, so it's not a terrible season. But I think he's had a pretty good season, and maybe he also gets a chance to move abroad.
Yeah, so agree with everything that you say there, and also another player that didn't quite make the cut, but was definitely in the running was Johan Kristin from Kauar, from your team. He's popped up time and time again, putting balls in and getting goals and assists, but also on the other hand, shutting things down too. He was definitely in the running for sure. Moving on to our midfield, So there are a lot of options here, but I think truthfully speaking, it did sort of pick itself. We went with Egerteren. We've talked so much about him. I don't even think that's worth spending the time. I mean, everybody knows by now that we're so high on him. There's a lot of people that are high on him. Like, he's just class, right? We also went with Birnir Snær, also another player who's been complete quality and total class all season long. He actually got Player of the Season at Vikingur in their end of the season awards as well. So there's been a lot of different people that have recognized him. I think Statu Sport also recognized him in their end of the season show too. So outstanding player for sure. Definitely makes our team. Just the way that he can pop up all of a sudden, whether it's for a goal or a tackle, like you don't necessarily feel his presence. This is hard to describe, but you don't feel his presence, but his presence is always there, if that makes sense. So yeah, definitely good shout there. Then we also went with Pablo Punjed, who's also a Vikingur player. It was kind of between him and Aaron Ellis, if we're being honest. You and I kind of went back and forth a little bit on that. But ultimately we settled with Pablo just because, he really makes that midfield tick for Vikingur. And even as an option coming off the bench, which you kind of saw towards the end of the season, still he comes in and it's just like it's an immediate upgrade. So really, I mean, and he's been one of the best midfielders in this league for years on end, if we're being honest. Pablo makes it. Then we went with David Snær from FH. He's outstanding. I mean, he carried this FH team on multiple occasions. I don't think FH would be anywhere close to this place where we ended up without him. He was valuable for us going forward. A very young, very exciting player that has a huge future ahead of him, I think. I'd be surprised if he's at FH next season. You never know, but he's doing good things with the youth national teams for Iceland as well. And quality player there. And then we not settled. I mean, I don't think that's not the right thing to say, but we we landed on Hallgrimur Mar from Kawa as well, and he's just been solid. And there was a stat that was going around. Somebody put out a stat, and I can't remember who it was, and I actually can't remember the stat. So this is gonna sound not so great, but just bear with me. It was something along the lines of like since he's come back in, like he's created the most chances for Kawa out of anybody else in the team, I think. Something along those lines. And like maybe it was he had such a high conversion rate with them too. Anyways, he's got a wicked foot. He can score from free kicks. He can get in good positions. Yeah, solid player all around, and I think it's fitting that he makes our 5 in the midfield.
For sure. I think he ended the season with the most amount of assists, which supports very much what you were talking about as well. Another player that we sort of mentioned was Aronjo at Valur. If this was a team based on ability, I think he would very easily get into this team. I think he's technically one of the best players in this league, and you saw it so many times with Valur this season. Most attacks either ended with him or went through him or started with him in some way. So he's definitely an honorable mention. But I think what Hallgrímur and Davíð Snær have done for their respective teams have really dragged them up from what could have really been a disastrous season. So I think that those two deserve a lot of credit. And then Pablo and Birnir just. I mean, there's now already mentioned on his Twitter that Birnir apparently has a clause in his contract that he said he can leave on a free if a foreign team comes in for him. So this might be the last season for him in a while. So I mean, to be honest, most of this team might be gone. Come next season. There's not going to be that many left, unfortunately. But maybe one or two. And then, I get it's, I think he was number 1 on this team sheet.
All right, cool. Our forward line. So, like I mentioned, we're going 3-5-2 here. I think it's hard to argue. Maybe one other person that might be missing from this list might be Nikolai Hansen. We didn't actually go with him. He did have a really good season. I feel like he started the season much better than he ended it. Maybe that's just me, and that's just totally my own view, I guess. But kind of in reverse to that, Benini. So I feel like he started the season kind of quiet, but he ended it with a real bang. And so we went with him, and I think it's completely justified. He did fantastic things for Kaur this season. I think he was one of the reasons why they also ended where they ended. And one of the reasons why they had the season that they did, because he was their goal scorer. Without him, wouldn't have been so pretty for Kaur maybe. So Benini Brecki is in there, and then also partnering with him up top, it has to be the Golden Boot, right? So Emil Atlason, he is our other one up there, and I mean, probably the most complete forward that the league has. I don't think that it's too far-fetched to say that. I don't know. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's hard to argue against that. He's had a fantastic season, and he scores all kinds of goals. Like he had 1 or 2 of these like long-range things against Cowhead as well, and scores really fantastic goals. And he can also slot away a penalty or more basic chance as well. He'll feel a bit annoyed that he didn't break the goals record. But he's 5 goals ahead of anyone else in the Golden Boot race. So then he was definitely injured in the beginning of the season. So it's fantastic season. And then Benoni, I mean, of course I'm biased as well, but he had a really good season and really dragged Kauer on to any sort of hope for Europe. I think then there were 1,000 other names we could have mentioned, and one of them, I think, also one player that maybe tailed off a little bit after Valur lost maybe some of their title chances was Trygve. I think along with Aronio, I think he was by far their most dangerous attacking threat. Yeah, maybe if he'd kept going and if he'd scored a few more goals towards the end, maybe he could have snuck his way into this team. But yeah, he's had a really good season, and maybe he's also one of the players that moves on to abroad.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see. All right, well, that's it. That's our team of the season. We did go ahead and pick a manager as well. There were probably a couple different shouts for this, but we went with Jokul from Stjarnan. Just for me, this was largely based off the fact that he took over a team at a point in the season where like they hadn't been able to deliver. Like, their performances maybe hadn't been bad up to that point per se, except maybe a few of them, but yeah, they were struggling at that point in time, and he took it over and just he got them firing, and so yeah, they finished the season in third place and absolutely remarkable. Secured Europe next season, so I think it's definitely a deserved shout, and maybe most importantly, he's nominated because he is the Icelandic Jürgen Klopp.
That's a callback.
Hey, that's right.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I know a lot of outlets have gone for Arnar. I mean, he took Víkingur, he got their title back from Breiðablik. And I mean, of course, he's done a good job. I mean, nobody's going to argue that he's done a great job. But I think what Jürgen has done is just fantastic. I think taking this team, even if we, like you said, even if we ignore the first few games, take that as a bit of a blip or something. I mean, just looking at this team, they were so young. Then they lost their best player halfway through the season. You know, their second best player who turned into their best player. You could see he was a bit injured in the middle of the season a little bit. He had to come off and then he was linked with moves abroad and you know one of their main goal scorers, Emil Atlason, was injured, missed the first few months as well, and like they had so much going against them, and they still ended up as one of the best teams in the league. Gave them a few more weeks and they might have even caught Víkingur. I think it says a lot that he's made this team into what it is. I think that's very much what a manager of the season should do. So I very much agree that that should be his.
Perfect. Yeah, I think Arnar is definitely another shout for sure. And I mean, you've already put the argument out there. I guess I would just add, coaching a team like Víkingur, like you expect him to get the team like where he got them, and especially on the budget that they have too. Whereas for Jokul and Stjarnan, like he's dealing with a much different type of team structure where it's largely based on youth and academy and like getting the most out of your players versus bringing in players who have already proven themselves. So yeah, no, good shout. All right, well, Trygve, another season done. That's a wrap. Can you believe it? I can't believe it's over.
No, it went by very quickly. So hopefully the winter goes by equally quickly because I'm ready for the next one.
It's going to be fun to see what happens. We're going to do our best to keep you updated on that. Just to go through the team of the season one more time. So manager, Jokul from Stjarnan. Goalkeeper, Guy Schmidt from IVF. Defenders, Gunnar Vatnhammer from Víkingur. Hlynur Freyr from Valur and Höskuldur Gunnlaugsson from Breiðablik. Midfielders, Igor Theron from Stjarnan, Birnir Snær from Víkingur, David Snær from FH, Pablo Punjed from Víkingur, Hallgrímur Mar from Kawa, Benoni Brekki from Kaur, and Emil Atlason from Stjarnan. So that is our team of the season. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to this episode, and we'll be back soon. We've got some other things, some interviews and things lined up, and we're really gonna try to keep it constant, not only to entertain ourselves, but entertain you as well during the break. So once again, thank you everybody for listening. We really appreciate it. Feel free to leave us a review. We'd love to get a 5-star review from you. That helps other people find our show on whatever platform you're listening on. And if you have suggestions for us, let us know. You can reach us on Twitter, on our Instagram account, shoot us a message, or shoot us a tweet or an X or whatever you call it these days, and let us know. And Trygve, as always, we're moving into the grateful season, at least here in the States. It's going to be Thanksgiving soon, so I will tell you I'm grateful for you and that you do this with me. So along with our listeners, I'm thankful to have a co-host who is as into this as I am. So thank you for hanging with me all season long. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Joe. No, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to many more seasons with you.
Likewise. All right, that's it for us for this episode. We'll see you all later.